Okay, when do you grade? Well, more importantly, when do you prepare your classes? And then when do you grade? My basic answer for when do you prepare is at the beginning of when you're deciding your rhythm. So when you're deciding what your schedule is, as I told you, we're reaching the 6-week mark on doing end of mental illness, Imagineering, and permaculture. That's going to be the end of a season. It's not even a semester, it's just 6 weeks. So since we are done with that, we are going to have the next brainstorming session here in a week and a half of what we're going to study next. And it's really front heavy. The planning is very front heavy, where we assess the different requirements of their age level. We read through the standards of learning for their age level, and we find something that they go, oh, I want to learn more about that. This is particularly what we do in history and science. What I find is by the time you have a 12-year-old, if you've been homeschooling for a while, you go through the standards and you can't find anything that they aren't rather fluent in. And so you say, okay, let's find something that we are going to get to a collegiate level of expertise at. But the planning is very front heavy. So at the beginning of the semester, or at the beginning of the term, or the beginning of the 6-week window, we'll take a day or two together to do a giant brain map on the board of what is it that we are going to learn, what are our goals, what are the themes, what are the end results that we're going to be able to produce. And we take those days. That is part of homeschool, just like that is a part of a professional career, is mapping what your end goals will be. So it's very top heavy, but this is another piece that I really need to share. I am a learner with my children. I don't at all feel like I am just their instructor. I am modeling for them how to have a lifetime of learning. So when my daughter, she was 14 at the time, came to me and said, okay, I'm really committed to become a neurosurgeon, we looked at the different courses that were available at that moment at TEDx, or at edX, not TEDx, and we found a series of classes that would be needful for pre-med. Among them, of course, was biochem and different forms of biology and microbiology. And we chose 4 classes from there that she loved. And we looked at the curriculum, we looked at the staging and the timing of when they would be coming in, so we could figure out if she could take them all. And then she and I took those together. Now, I took all of those classes 20 years ago, something like that. I took all of those classes at university myself, but I don't remember a lot of it. And the other thing that's really exciting that you find with science is a lot of the information's changed. And instilling that in your children, this information's going to keep changing. Like, keep watching the growth of humanity and keep watching the scientific process that will keep going on and on and on well beyond the years that you are studying. I am instilling in my children learning myself. So I do not watch all of the chemistry lecture before she does and then teach her. We sit down together and watch it. That part requires some intricate schedule juggling. I have the privilege to be at home right now and to not have the distraction of a job. And so we've been able to, we will, once this 6-week period ends, we will take on more of those classes that are the collegiate level that I will watch with them. Sometimes I really need to express ideas and explain concepts that they aren't familiar with, but usually, in all honesty, it's just me studying right along with them. And that's the crazy thrill of this. I get to keep learning too. And I'm not, teaching the alphabet. I have never taught the alphabet to any of my children. Like, that's not something I've done. They teach one another, I'm sure my 17-year-old, I must have taught him the alphabet, but they teach one another all the basics. And then they get to jump into these incredible classes with some of the best teachers in the world online. And we also get to just pour into the most incredible literature available to cultivate a sense of history and a sense of belonging. So our family has a book club, and every month we gather together having completed 7 books. So each of us that's actively a part of school right now, we choose a book, and we try to not make it too long, so we've got to get through 7 books in 1 month, and we all read through those. Now, mind you, I don't get to pre-read all of them. I mean, of course, I don't get to make sure all of them are saying exactly what I want them to say. I don't censor books, So sometimes there are things that I ask people to skip in novels, and sometimes there are boring parts and I would rather not waste my time on it. That's life. So I don't pre-read. I trust each of them to choose a book, and then we dive in them together, and then we evaluate them. And it's a real gift, the lack of preparation when it comes to the book sometimes, because there are choices that are made that I would have never chosen. And there are conversations had about awkward subjects that I would have never had if I was editing it out, right? Ooh, look, there's another Klimt painting. It's a perfect painting for this. So the 2 days when the semester starts is when we throw in the majority of planning, and then I learn with the group. There is not, I don't like, for example, tuck my kids into bed at 10 and stay up until midnight planning. No, I do not do that. When it comes to evaluation, the majority of our evaluations are portfolio-based, meaning every Friday we have a presentation 4-hour span. So something that each child has learned that has changed them, that they want to be sure that they remember, they're going to present it there. They usually do 30-minute presentation a piece, sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. That's something that I would like to provide as Zoom links on the website, because the ability to show and tell the new knowledge that you have gained is an incredible thrill. So the thing that's beautiful about it is you have a 10-year-old talking about bioluminescence. The 17-year-old does not know details that she's sharing. Of course, he knows the term bioluminescence and it was new to her, but he doesn't know the details of the sea slime that are bioluminescing at specific times of the year due to different fertilizer that was used in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, he didn't know that detail. So he is still learning from the 10-year-old. I find that when I have had times where I've prepared a lot more, it becomes strained, the dynamic of myself and the children, because I'm trying to lead what comes next. And my kids are very accustomed to leading themselves and driving the conversation with their own interests. So when I'm like, no, let's keep focusing on this topic, when I take the steering wheel away from them, it doesn't work as well. And I don't have the spare time to come up with, pre-watching every lecture that they watch. So for me, I am very much involved in the process of deciding what's coming next to learn, but then I'm an active learner myself. I'm not a premeditated learner that is then giving an exposition on what I want them to take away. We have something called the question jar, and in the mornings, I'll pull a question out of the question jar. These are questions generated by my children, and I will sometimes pull out the question jar question an hour or half an hour before I'm responding to it, because sometimes they're doozies. Sometimes I want to be able to give a more substantive response than just what I can do at that moment. So my 4-year-old asked last week in the question jar, he doesn't write, but he asked, why do people die? And will my friends die? And will I see them? And I wanted to have more time to come up with a response than just whatever comes off of the top of my head. And I'll say that it was a 4-year-old question, and my 17-year-old was listening with every bit of intent as anyone else. So this is more of a conversation for the next recording, the next episode of how to use school with multiple ages. But I think what goes hand in hand is the embracing of the extemporaneous and the embracing of the fact that you're not going to control the chaos. The chaos is going to be where the greatest learning comes. I could easily imagine children that could derail that. And I have kids that have derailed that will be snarky and even crass and say something inappropriate during a science lecture, and take them out of the room, have a real conversation about if they're creators or destroyers, and if they want to lift up the homeschool or if they want to destroy it under their foot like a piece of gum, and we're done. I feel like when you design so much, you take away some of the magic. But I will say one of the most satisfying things is to look at the expectations of learning for the grade level of your state, to go through and to know, oh, we talked about that and that and that and that and that and that and that. We did it. And then to find something you haven't done and say, announcement, next semester, we are 100% focusing all of our efforts on Native Americans, because you're in 3rd grade and we haven't covered Native Americans yet. And it's exciting. It's exciting to find the gaps in what you've not taught and to recognize how much you're doing just because the natural progression of your student interest happens. I did forget to say one thing. We do a lot of writing, and 50% of it's journaling. It's writing down, creative writing, and just write down what it is that you've done with this day. Oops, had to pause the video so you didn't say I'm still not wearing pants even though I changed my shirt again. So this is one of our many, isn't that lovely? It's kind of wild and crazy, huh? This is just a notebook. And in this notebook, I write down everyday topics that we have covered. And I have one of these for each year. And this is what I'm using to be able to share with you the resources that we've used to school the kids the last 12 years. Within this is one from 6 years ago. You're going to see crazy handwriting. You can see this. See their signatures? So I have the kids sign in each day. It's a part of saying, okay, I'm present. I am here. I'm ready to learn. And then I write underneath the topics that we've covered. I also write down the dessert, the thing that I want to take with me, the cherry on top, the most delicious thing to learn. And you'll find on the website we have a dessert section for the most delicious things that we have learned. Because as a parent, this should be delicious. You should be covering topics that you're fascinated by. And there are so many unending resources on the internet that are available to you. You should be able to take any topic. Let's say that you loved dinosaurs as a kid and considered being a paleontologist and took paleontology classes in college. Even at that level, you should absolutely be finding videos and researched articles and magazines and journal publications that you will still learn from. And as long as you keep an eye towards the fact that you are having high quality writing, your children will develop that high quality writing from what they're being exposed to. I do one-on-one editing with papers every single week. My spouse helps me with that, thank goodness. And I think that probably is what makes our kids stand out so much when it's academically wise. People are always like, oh, they're kind of really smart. And I think most of that's because we teach them how to craft an argument and how to craft the presentation of their ideas so that their ideas can be received by others and not be argumentative. That is all done in the space of recording what it is that they have learned in a week and putting that down on paper. It truly is a research paper journal. So every week they're doing that, and those papers are being critiqued for accuracy in grammar, but more importantly in presentation of ideas. And beyond that, the only evaluation that we do is those Friday presentations where they get up in front of us and they present their favorite thing that they've learned for the week. Once we get to the 12, 13, 14 age, we start practicing for GED tests and for SAT, ACT. We get the chunky giant books made by Princeton Review and Barron's, and they start slogging through them. And that's part of their personal work that they're doing when they're doing their own stuff and not in a collective bubble with us. So they slog through those and take online tests like crazy. But I will say I'm hopeful that that will end. The University of California just announced that they will no longer require ACT and SAT scores and that they'll be moving more towards a portfolio application. And we're rock stars when it comes to portfolio applications. My kids that have taken the ACT and SAT also scored fantastically. So I really find that a lot of the testing that has been done in the public school system is done as a means of showing that the teachers are teaching well and doesn't actually cement the knowledge. For me personally, going through the public school system, the knowledge wasn't cemented by the test. Knowledge was more cemented when I had projects involving applying the knowledge. So what I try to do is to create those projects involving the knowledge that they then present to us on Fridays.